And
Just didn't realize that it wasn't recording.
and Capricorn energy is not a really comfortable place for the moon to be in, right? Because it's the opposite of Cancer, and the moon rules Cancer. So it's a water sign. And Capricorn is a fuddy duddy. And the
Well,
moon is
yeah.
not cool with it.
So Capricorn is Earth, right? So we have an Earth
Yeah.
element sign. We have the you know, it's the right, it's the last Earth element sign in the triads of,
Mm-hmm.
earth signs. And when you mix earth and water, well, you get mud. So part of it is like this mucky energy, but to understand, like, this is what happens when your earth is not well formed. Then like either the emo
Formed Earth. But formed Earth contains and holds and gives shape to and water,
right,
right?
exactly. It directs the water flow. So intuitively, like if your earth, if the boundaries of your earth, if the riverbanks are degrading, you cannot, you don't have a good structure for processing emotions or intuition.
Mm-hmm. Then you just
So
get
yeah, so it's a good time to, work on earth. It's not, which is interesting because I wore orange, which is a combination of like red and yellow. So it's the combination of fire and earth, which is, not water and earth, but um I just didn't feel like digging out yellow in the bottom of the drawer. Um, yeah. So this is like an opportunity, right?
well, yeah, like we were talking about what type of emotion or what kind of perspective, new perspective does this new moon give you on your emotion?
Mhm. It's gonna depend where it's hitting you too, right?
It does, and I just lost my train of thought. I had something that I had to wait too long and then I forgot.
Well, it'll
Um,
come back.
okay, like you were describing, having riverbanks or being able to use your earth placements to guide or structure your intuition or your emotions, that puts you in a place where you want to be in observation of the feelings that come up instead of being ruled by them. Because Cancer is associated with the solar plexus, we can really get all churned up with feelings that are intense or hard to deal with or overwhelming. Like, so I guess breathing and practicing some sort of observation would be
Right.
recommended.
Like, so some people have a hard time observing. They have a hard time.
Right.
They're either
Especially
they,
if this is a place for you where you hold a lot of energy.
yeah, well, yeah. So like one thing is there's a lot of different things you can do. So making sure your diaphragm is relaxed, being able to relax the diaphragm so it can actually go down as far as it needs to go so because it's stimulating, it's basically pushing it's like pushing down onto the solar plexus energy. It's pushing down onto all the digestive organs there. So it helps to like squeeze things out. It helps to move things. So what happens a lot of times when you're upset or you can't figure out what to do, you're kind of like everything's in the muck, you could be, basically holding tension in your diaphragm because you're trying to control it. You're trying to control and instead of just going, let my breath take care of this, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Like giving yourself just a moment.
I was just thinking for a second, where do I have Cancer? It's my midheaven.
Oh,
It's part of my axis. And then The sun is like exactly at my midheaven right now, and the moon will be there shortly. I don't know why I disconnect from that part of my chart. Probably because of my moon sign. My moon's in Aquarius.
Right.
Very at odds with Cancerian energy.
Yeah, you have to find just like where's the meeting point between the two.
Well, when you were saying that, and I was like realizing like I do have a lot in the last over the last 2 weeks, and probably for the next 2 weeks to come, a whole lot of emotions about all the changes and all the things I have to do. And that's definitely spinning out my head.
So there's what's interesting to think. So Pisces rules the feet. So Aquarius rules the ankles
In the calves.
and the calves,
Mhm.
right? So one of the things I would say, like during a time like this, like it's possible to do some work where you're working on both, like the solar plexus area, like so whatever it means to move that area, whether it's your breath or like even kind of like belly dancing. I'm kind of doing the belly dancing abdominal thing and stretching your rotating your ankles and stretching your calves. Like at the, you don't have to do them at the same time, but to work on both of those areas together and see what happens. See if that shifts something.
Okay.
Like that's, just a simple kind of like practical approach. And then also like I always think about this like when we were here on the beach and like the beach in New Jersey and the beach here are very different. We don't have crabs like walking around normally, like out on the, like we don't see a lot of like you don't see them. Like at least in my experience as a child, but here, like they're all over you go on the beach, you're just gonna see crabs and they're like coming
Yeah.
out of they come out of their hole. They
And
get
they do their little dance and they
they do
grab the
their little
stuff and
dance, they get something, tick, 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 and then they bring it back into their little hole. And they come out. They just like this little kind of grab, like it's an interesting thing to think about, like what a crab does and how it dances around and the movements that it kind of does this like
well, with this new moon, most people are probably feeling like they need to be in their little hole.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like you might
Nurturing
yeah.
aspect of Cancer, like needing to be away from all the stimulus.
Meanwhile, there's just this, 4th of July. What I thought was interesting is this is the first 4th of July because it rained a little bit on this side,
Mhm.
and we didn't have like first of all, we didn't have gunshots like we normally do with fireworks here this year. Usually there's like literally, there's
Well, shooting out guns.
people are shooting off guns and fireworks at the same time, but that didn't happen.
Okay.
So it was like I was grateful for the rain, a little bit of like rain. So because it usually that it's interesting to think about it because that makes me like all the fireworks and stuff make me want to do more of that. I don't, it's too
Yeah.
much. you
Yeah.
know it's too much. Even if you look at children, like I don't even think children for the most part necessarily really enjoy fireworks.
It's the dynamite that I don't like. People around here light off like quarter sticks of dynamite. Yeah, I don't like those.
Just help people. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, like to think about how that's like right in this season.
Right?
What the hell?
At odds with the energy for sure.
Right, right. Yeah, so if anyone's watching live and they have questions, you can definitely ask like right now, like just comment below and we'll look at the questions and we'll answer them. And like, and that not necessarily looking at your chart, just we'll answer to the best ability without looking at charts.
There's a lot of support right now going on for this energy, so it might not feel as dysfunctional or as cloudy or as stressful as it can be for people who aren't at home in Cancer energy. right? We
Mhm.
have a sextile from Uranus and Taurus, I mean, and Mars that are in Taurus. So that's supportive. They're kind of close together. They're not at odds. So it's supposed to be this revolutionary conjunction here in a week when Mars actually makes it exactly to Uranus.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not exactly looking forward to that because it's exactly on my sun. But Cancer and Taurus energy tend to be friends.
Well, they have that kind of home, like, I wanna be
Homey,
home.
homey deal, right?
Yeah.
So, so there's that, right? There's no angsty energy between the two angsters that's going on. And then over in Pisces, we have Saturn and Neptune, which both went retrograde this week, but they're both trining everything in Cancer: the moon, the sun, and Venus.
Mm.
So Saturn is structure, right?
Mhm.
It's the establishment, it's work. So I feel like when Saturn is at odds with things, especially if it's in Pisces, then it brings out the delusion. But since it's in a beneficial or a harmonious aspect, it really supports the feelings and the structure of the feelings. Or if people like making it through, and maybe just like there's not so much as unpacking of stuff right now with all of this water energy as it is just feeling it. So sometimes you just have to feel stuff.
So do you like, so would you say, like, out of like, because there's something, this is what's coming out like when you're talking about this, what's the most earth of the water signs? Meaning, like, which one?
Oh, don't do that one.
No, 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 I'm not talking about.
I get it. No, there's memes. People make those up, but I'm not. I don't know.
Well,
Like
it's like kind of like, and I guess it depends on the earth you're talking about.
Cancer would be to me the most earth of the water signs.
Yeah, like there's something about that. That's why that I'm saying that. It's not because of that thing, because I don't, that meme, that goes around and people talk about that, right? But um and I think because of the home, right? The home feeling, that home essence.
The
Um,
mother, the home, your family.
yeah.
Everything. Yeah, Pisces is the void of nothingness, and Scorpio is unfathomable depths.
Well, it's kind of, I look at Pisces like you're going to, the mirror is for Pisces is going to be more about the divine, like like it's going to be more centered around spirituality, like, like that. Where I think the mirror for Cancer is going to be more reflective of like home and family and things like that. Where Scorpio, it's like more like the shadowy mirror, like kind of like the Shadowlands.
Right. Okay.
So just looking at it kind of like in that range, right, of what's going on there and what.
And this new moon is definitely going to bring up like home stuff.
Mhm.
Um, maybe mother things. Maybe like memories.
Well, like I think anything can stimulate memories. It's just what kind of memories.
I
Yeah.
mean, connecting to your fourth house, and the fourth house has to do with your childhood,
Right. So it could be
how you're influenced and currently still affected by your childhood.
right. So it could be an invitation, like to implement new ways of nurturing, like,
Take care of yourself, self care.
right, self-care in preparation, right, for this next full moon in Capricorn again, like this sandwich. This is like a sandwich, right? Between the two full moons in Capricorn, and in the meat of the sandwich is the new moon in Cancer.
Right.
So, you know, it's just trying to prepare you. When is the full moon's going to be? Will it still be like what
It'll be at the last moments of
of
Cancer.
Cancer? Yeah,
Yeah.
the
So
last gasp.
last gasp, the death rattle.
Yeah. So that it's like preparing, like think about moving into Leo season. So there's like, why is this all this? If I take the next step, like why is this all preparing you for getting into that season?
Mm.
Or what is it preparing? What is it helping to prepare you for in that season?
Facing something public.
Yeah, could be. I mean, it's like depends on what's going on in your chart, which is what like, basically that's why they should
Yeah,
you
just
should have.
personally. You have to
Yeah,
look at the actual
right.
chart. It's easy to generalize that kind of thing.
Right. That's why I'm saying that, because those would be reasons to have a session with you.
Yeah, check on the transits.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. I I can't get. I could never raw dog life anymore without transits.
Well, no, that's fine, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying those things because I'm saying to people who are watching, if you want to know what to do, then they should work with you
Right.
to get some ideas of what's coming, right, and what to do with all this um stuff that's happening. And maybe you're kind of being able, from our conversation, you might be able to see like, oh, I didn't realize, like taking the conversation and applying it right to what's going on in your life.
Okay. So right now, this I have Capricorn on my IC. I have it at the bottom of my chart. So it's split between my third and my fourth house.
Mhm.
So the first full moon was in my third house, and the one at the end of the month is going to be in my fourth house, right? So the fourth house is the house is Cancerian energy. It's mother. It's your home,
Mhm.
and the third house is your friends, your cousins, your a lot of socially related, like relationships. And the last full moon 2 weeks ago, I was drawing hard lines with people who abuse my relationship with them,
Mhm.
right? So the next one's going to be in my fourth house, and I am physically changing my home.
Yeah.
So this new moon being at the top of the chart in the midheaven is like the part of your chart that shines that everybody can see. So it doesn't matter that you're a sun sign and you have this rising sign. They see what's at your midheaven. Um, it is definitely colored by your rising sign because we appear as our rising signs.
Mhm.
Um, so the new moon being exactly conjunct my midheaven is I have a void there. I don't even know how to connect to that.
Well, that's your work.
Right? That's what I have to figure out today and like this week and whatever. But
Yeah.
it definitely has something to do with my public persona. The 10th house is your professional house.
Right.
It's Capricornian. So
But
on the cusp of
that's where
that,
that's where your Cancer is what you're saying.
yeah. So it is Capricorn related because it's the 10th house, professional persona, the way you work, like how you work, what you do for work, if you're really successful with work.
Right. So,
Um,
there's again, we come back to your moon in Aquarius and Cancer,
hmm,
because if if that midheaven is in Cancer, and then you're meant to be seen, right? They're seeing you in a Cancerian light, but you're not understanding, like you kind of go into disassociation, or you don't.
Well, no, here it is. This is what I just did this morning. To be a therapist, to be nurturing,
Right.
I'm perceived as being nurturing in some way in the public, mostly because I'm always solving problems for people and offering them solutions and information as it pertains to usually the body and astrology.
But also compassion. Cancer's
Right.
cancer's a well of compassion.
Right. And I guess I'm so motivated to do that because of how much suffering I've endured throughout my life. And that suffering has been the motivation to learn all these things so I can solve these problems. And so really I look at I look and the motivation behind that is like fuck the man, right? Like fuck the insurance companies, fuck doctors who don't really want to take care of you and don't want to solve your problems. They just want to feed you pills and cut you open and get your money.
Well, well,
Like
that's the moon in Aquarius.
yeah, that's the moon in Aquarius, right? But you can't trust that system, and I learned early on that you can't trust that system. So you really have to, for the most part, be able to solve those problems. I mean, emergency medicine is necessary in certain situations, but it's not the way that you heal. It's not healing oriented. So,
Mhm.
like my rebellious side of like, fuck the man, do it yourself. Yeah, that's my moon in Aquarius. That's how and why I nurtured people.
Well, I also like, if you're in the 10th house, you're dealing with bigger groups of people. So you're dealing with communities too.
Well,
There
that's the 11th house, but
it
yes,
is.
but
It is,
publicly,
but it's like there's more bigger, it's a bigger group. It might not
yeah,
be the biggest group, but it's a bigger group.
right. It's bigger than your home. Like if you're at
Right.
home, you're only dealing with a handful of people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also just interesting just to kind of explore a little bit of, Cancerian energy. Um, and
I used to be very at odds with cancers. Like it's actually no, it's funny. Now that I know what I know about astrology, I've looked back over things and I figured out that two of the girls that were my really good friends in high school were both cancers.
Mhm.
And one of them I've connected with post graduation and having our own lives and everything. So I always thought that I didn't get along with cancers until I figured that out. And then I realized actually there's certain cancers that are well aspected that I certainly get along with very well.
Part of it, like I think like one of the things to look at is like, mm, um, who do we project upon the archetype of Cancer that might not even be a Cancer per se? So who in our lives have we projected upon that, our relationships to that archetype, right?
Hmm.
Like put in between, right? So, and there could be a lot of, layers of understanding there of what can be released, or what
Huh.
we like. So basically, or what can be, kind of sifting through and seeing what can be, yeah, what can be changed, can be transformed in the perspective and the relationship with Cancer energy. I always find it interesting, like, so, um, I've had clients that have had cancer over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And losing people that I love, who, like, that was their way out. Cancer was their door. That was the way out. That process in the body was their way out of the body, right? So I have a whole different perspective on cancer, like as far as, like, that doesn't mean that they weren't healed. That doesn't mean, like, as a disease process, that doesn't mean that they weren't healed, because That was their door out. So
Hmm.
Cancer, I'm looking at it as like, why, why did they name this disease this? And I know it's because they say like the tumors look like crabs. Well, I think that's kind of bullshit.
Is that what they say?
Yeah. So,
All of them? That I find that hard to believe. It seems like every little different sort of cancer would be a different.
there's at least that's one frame, you understand? That's pushed out. That's one narrative that's pushed out. Just I can tell you just in all my healthcare education, that's one narrative that's pushed out in multiple arenas. Okay. So that's all I can tell you, right? So, because you want to know, like, why would they name cancer cancer? Like, why is it named that? When we have this archetype, we have this Cancerian archetype. And that, that's part of all of our matrix, right? It's part of us. We all have Cancer in our astrology somewhere, right? It's
Right.
all somewhere. And I looked at it like that one part of this is to um it's a very key, like, to look at, like, well, cancer as a disease process very well may very well be related to the relationship to the mother. But like then we look at like like the mother of all, like the mother of all of us, right? So then we're back to earth energy,
Mm.
and we're back to like the ability to receive from earth. And then we're to the layer of how much is put in place so that we do not receive well magnetically,
Cell salts.
right? So there's all these layers that like I'm teasing apart. And even working with a client who has cancer and just reminding her like, well, this is also like, think about the relationships to the divine mother, like the mother aspect of divinity that's been lost and convoluted
Confounded.
and
Yeah.
confounded and all of these things. So that's the way, like, kind of I also, every time cancer season comes around, I look at cancer,
Mm.
actually look at the disease process itself. And I'm reminded of this, this kind of thing about healing, right? And healthcare, and that healing, the picture of healing isn't necessarily doesn't mean the disease or the symptoms are gone. I mean, we expect it to be that, but sometimes the healing is your time to go. Just,
Leaving.
yeah. And then so you're leaving through the door of cancer, no matter in some way, no matter what time you leave.
Surrendering.
Yeah, if that's the process you are in, and really looking at cancer is, it's like trying to heal you. Cancer is a healing process.
Right.
What healthcare does with it is a death process.
Process.
It's an invitation, right? So some people survive it, but you're taking either radiation or chemo and it changes the genetic structure, it changes your DNA.
Mm.
That's why you see people who have had like chemo and radiation, they lose all their hair and then their hair grows back and it's a different color. It's a different texture, even.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's where I go also when the cancer season comes around. And also because I've had some, and I've had so many experiences with it as a healthcare practitioner. And
My aunt chose to leave.
yeah,
Yeah. She was like, I'm not doing that. all that, whatever. I'm not destroying the whatever days I have left with your death sentence.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna go.
Right, because like it's part of it is like what I'm saying is like, yeah, some people choose the health scare route, right? That death route. But and some part of them dies still. Like even if they survive it, there's some part, and in Chinese medicine, we would look at the constitution of the person and their current state of health, both of those things, to see if they can survive the cancer treatment. And then you give them things to help them through it if that's what they decide to do. Like, my first acupuncture patient client had tongue and esophageal cancer and was on a feeding tube. That was my first official person. Well, I got him off of like I helped him through. He's I don't know like where he is now, but he survived. I got him off the feeding tube faster than the doctors thought was possible, and that was that. But that was my first person.
I worked very shortly for a man who had had tongue cancer and he had most of his tongue removed, but he was mean and he was
That's a
very mean with his
mean
tongue.
tongue, right?
I found this out after, because
Mhm.
part of the lessons that I've had to learn is like power trips with people that I work with. And
Yeah.
I went to take on this massive oceanfront house account. And I didn't care that the guy was tough. I'm like, I can handle tough. That's fine. Ultimately, I didn't keep it because it was a 5 bedroom, well, 5 bedrooms and 5 baths, plus the bunkhouse, which had 4 more beds in it. And they were only going to pay me a certain amount of money. I had to do it all by myself in 8 hours. I wasn't allowed to have a helper. And I was like, what are you talking about? And the guy was so stingy and so sharp. And the way I was just like, that's unacceptable. And that's not how we do this business. This business doesn't operate like that. A house like that, I bring somebody with me. And so everybody there participated in his power trip. And because I wasn't, it wasn't going to work. But I found it interesting that he had most of his tongue removed. He had a difficulty speaking, but he still did, and he still did all of business. The man was like 70 something.
Well, this guy wasn't like that. This guy was very sweet. He's actually
Right.
a very sweet man. So my sense is, like either he, could be suppressing all that meanness like into himself. So that but that's where I go when cancer season comes around. I think about cancer.
Mm.
And it's very possible that right in the name is the solution, which is it has to do with emotions. It has to do with like really like my question would be, did they name cancer because it is they know it's a disease process.
Of repression.
Yeah, that's trying to heal emotions.
That's the axis of Cancer and Capricorn.
Yeah.
Because Capricorn is very repressive. That's why they get the reputation for being the dominatrix or the dominant, because the rest of their life they have to like be this way in order to be professional and like win and dominate in business, but then in behind closed doors there's this need to express all of that repressed emotion.
Mhm.
My aunt died of pancreatic cancer,
Mhm.
and I don't know where it was that I read or was talking about it with somebody, or we talked about like the emotions that go with that. Which emotions are tied to the pancreas in Chinese medicine?
Well, pancreas is considered part of the spleen and stomach. It's all together. And so it's about worry and overthinking, like over sympathizing with things.
Over sympathizing. That's where it is. Yes, it was that part of her personality and the way that she enabled and the way that she didn't have any boundaries and she just took
Right.
more and more and more and more for everybody. And then ultimately that was that
Right.
was it.
It's sweetness. Like, so the, you know, doesn't, this is not really necessarily spoken about in Chinese medicine, but of course, like the, you know, it's like looking for the sweetness in life, like lacking the sweetness, like can't find the sweetness in life.
Mm.
And maybe overindulging in sweets, right? Because you're looking for that flavor.
She was drinking wine out of a coffee cup all day long so that nobody would know it was wine, like sweet white wine.
Ugh. That'll do it. That'll do it.
Right. Well,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, you know, I would say like again, like what I was saying, like so, you know, to Whitney is like you have the two Cancer full moons, and in the mid note is this,
and then there's the Cancer and full moon.
yeah, it's like plucking the cord between the two of them going ding ding ding, you know, like what can you know, what can you see about your emotions that you haven't seen before?
Mm.
Is there a new way to look at this emotion? Is there a new process that you can implement to deal with this emotion, whatever emotion? Is there a new emotion peeking up out of its hole? I
Yeah,
can't even say go watch videos of crabs. They're funny to watch.
they are.
They fight. See them ever see them fight?
You know what? Shut up. Stop it. Grumpy pants over here.
She hiss.
Yeah. I touched her tail and she hissed at me. Somebody's moody.
She's in her Cancer feels.
Is moody. She hissed at me this morning when I moved her so I could get out of bed. Sorry, human, you must not move. I am comfortable. Yeah, sassy pants. Stink eye. Give him a stink eye.
Yeah,
I think she's a Leo.
well, maybe she is. Yeah. Yeah, so this is like what is, you know, for me, it's like look like what's this preparing? What is this paving the way for? What
And
can
I guess that will become more clear as we near the next full moon.
right, what can we be present
That
to
that
now?
will be illuminated.
Right. Right, because this you're saying that this is all hitting the tenth house, right? For
For
everyone.
me, it is. I was making an example.
Oh, for
And
you. Okay.
like for other people who might be curious about where it's happening in their chart, that was an example of
Oh, okay. Got it.
I only like I could visual. Whereas you have Capricorn on your second house, so that means it's in your eighth house. The new moon's in your eighth house.
Yeah.
So
It's hitting all the scorpionic stuff and
mm,
the vertex.
oh, you have your vertex there.
Mhm. Because it is interesting because what's happening for me personally is a lot of shadow stuff. And it's not necessarily mine.
Mm.
It's like everyone I look at, it's like their shadows like, you know, very it's like, oh, okay. All right. And I'm kind of like, okay, go here, here.
Not taking it. Not taking
Yeah.
it. Right.
But that's kind of how I'm designed anyway. So it doesn't matter. Like, you know. So it's just louder. It's just louder right now. So what
Hmm.
people are trying to hide,
Is
me personally, is loud.
Well, the eighth house too is the house of eighth house people get eighth house placements get projected on by other people.
By the
Um,
peoples, yeah.
I don't know why. So yeah, so that spilling over.
Mhm. Yeah. It is interesting though. It's interesting to see all. I'm like, oh, okay, this is fun. And also the collective shadow
Mm,
and the unconscious collective and all that's kind of like
it's still Aries energy. Chiron and the North Node are in Aries. That's
fun.
another one thing. I'm not going to get all crazy on that on the retrogrades because they're happening for a long time, and we can talk about them next time.
That's fun.
Actually, they're more pertinent to the next full moon than they are right now. I mean, yes, they happen. So they're both slow moving outer planets. That means we have to revisit certain types of things, and so Cancer. I mean, Saturn is rules and structure and karma. It's a karmic planet, and then Neptune is intuitive creativity, dreaminess. Isn't that what Pisces is I dream? So um and it's at the most destructive degree of Pisces. It's the anaretic degree, 29
Mhm.
degrees. So it's just going to stay there.
All right, so we'll talk about that next time. We're both kind of chill, like we're both kind of like, yeah, whatever. Here we are.
Well, I mean, there's been so much energy output and so much emotion, like so much emotion that I'm sitting here going, I want to run and grab a caffeine right now just so I can finish this conversation. But I mean, it's okay. I did. But I'm definitely going to have more caffeine to go to the dump today and think through and process through and pack and sort and get rid of.
Yeah, there you go. Sift it out.
Yeah. Quite.
That's small intestine sorting.
Aha.
Yeah.
My small intestines are not happy right now.
Okay, well,
So I guess that's it.
yeah, I don't, yeah, there's not, like watch your emotional patterns. See what comes up. Be able to observe them. Try not to react.
Yeah, it's good to have a lull right now because it's gonna get gnarly.
All right, excellent.
So just enjoy that. Fortify.
Fortify. All right, so you know where to find Whitney at Rogue Jedi if you want to talk chart. Do you want to see where you're going? What how to prepare for the gnarl?
The Narnar.
The Narnar, yeah, how to prepare for the Narnar. And then yeah, I still have those Mars Grow Your Warrior Essence and Jupiter Grow Your Spiritual Essence products if you're interested in those. And I'm creating more, so I'll have a whole product suite based on all the planets.
That's
Hmm?
that's fun.
Yeah, well, it's fun. It's just a matter of, that's all for me. It's all the like creating the journal, I have to do all the, you know, graphic stuff and tune into like what people really need to tune into, with regard so they can really be in that essence and understand that essence within themselves and understand what house it's growing through and what tune it's playing as
Mm.
the zodiac archetype. Fun.
Well, I like how it gets divided up like that, and people and it the different energies, isolating them like that, helping anybody who really wants to break down their their self, right, into these digestible,
Yes.
applicable
Yeah.
um pieces.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of using astrology.
Right. With it just making it digestible. Like, so part of it is like just, you know, and maybe that one digestible bit helps to like, shake the,
Synchronize the whole
yeah. Yeah.
interconnected thing.
Yeah. Yes. So to me, it's always been interesting because people are like, oh my God, I gotta download. I can't. I'm like, oh, stop. Like, stop drama, stop
Yeah.
over dramatizing normal processes that happen to us as humans because it's what everybody else is doing, and realize that that download is an apple and you can just take one bite, but that one bite of apple has all the information in the whole apple, and you don't have to shove an apple in your down your throat and choke on it.
Yeah.
Like, basically.
Oh, it's crybabies. It's the crybaby new moon. We didn't
It's a
even say
crybaby.
crybaby new moon. Watch out for the crybabies.
That's all right. I might go, maybe I'll just lean into my cry. Maybe I'll just lean into it.
Yeah,
I
well,
said it,
there's that too.
lean into being a crybaby, like see what happens or see what happens for you.
Let it go.
Yeah, be the victim. Go ahead. Because
Well, okay, feeling your feelings and being overwhelmed with emotion isn't being the victim.
right,
It's what you do with it. So you can
right,
still just feel your feelings and cry it out if you need to.
right. But Pisces is a little bit more victimy, but you can still kind of like get into
Right.
the woe is you, right?
Okay.
You can get into a little bit of the cry and the tears and the like let it out and ugly
Actually, look,
cry.
I don't go a day without crying, without being overwhelmed with my feelings and having some kind of grief and having to cry about it. And it can be triggered by the littlest thing.
Well, yeah, I'm saying for everybody, go ahead, let it out. Let the snot run down your face.
Oh my goodness. No,
Let it
don't
go.
hang too close.
All
Okay, is that it? Are we done?
right. Yeah, we're done. All right. So you know where to find us, folks. Enjoy the rest of your woeing and crying and getting ready for the next full moon. And we'll see you there. We'll talk about all the retrogrades. So bye.